All right, hey everyone, this is the DAT tutor, and I'm going to show you how to tackle a PAT question, which this one is a hole punching question that you'll see on your DAT. We're going to start off really simple, and we'll work our way up to something way harder. So I have this in a graph paper, so it's a little bit easier for you guys to understand, but honestly, when you look at this, at first it's really confusing. You see 3 different folds. Sometimes you'll see more, but in this case, you'll see 3 different folds, and they hole punch the last one. So how do we understand how many holes and where they are at the end of the question? So first, I'm just gonna go through it really slowly. The more we look at these, the more I'm gonna speed up and expect you guys to keep up with me. So we see here that we have a piece of paper that is folded like this. And we see they hole punched right here. Now looking at our little graph, I made a 4x4, and this would be on the top right quadrant on that bottom square. So let's put that right here. Okay. So moving on, we have the same thing here. So we're just gonna put our little dot here, and we're gonna go on to the next fold. So we have this here, and how did we get from here to here? Right, this is no longer a triangle, it's now a square. So we can see that the only way for this to happen is that this gets flipped over this way. This one part, don't think about this. This part right here gets flipped over to turn into a square. So that means you basically could think of this yellow line as a mirror. So you have your original, and then once you flip it over here, there should be another circle, right? There should be another hole punch. So, okay, cool. Now we have 2 hole punches. So let's go to the next fold. Nothing else happens there. Now there's 2 ways to tackle this. You can either start from the beginning, which I think is slower, and work your way back. So this folds here, this folds up, this folds this way, and then you hole punch. But I like to go with the question. I don't like to go backwards because that takes more time. And the PAT section, let me tell you, it's all about time. How are you going to manage your time? So we have those 2 hole punches right here. And then as we said before, if we're working the way I do it, we're folding it down to get to this. We want this whole rectangle right here, part of the paper. And we're only stuck with this right now. So the only way for us to get to this is by folding this down. So let's draw our mirror. I like to call it a mirror. And then when you do that, right, you fold it down. You have that plane of symmetry here. So you're just gonna you're gonna reflect it across. So if it's on the top here, it's gonna move to the bottom on the other side. If it's right on this line over here, it's gonna be right on the line right there. Okay, so now we know that we have our circles here, but then working the way I want to work, right, we are going to, so you see this part, so at the end of the day, we're trying to get a whole piece of paper. And we see that this part right here, this one singular part, right, is getting flipped over this way. So that means our plane of symmetry, Or our mirror would be here, and we're only thinking about the hole punches here, right? We don't want to think about these. We just want to think about this section here, any hole punch in this section. So we see we have our mirror, and we're just going to reflect it right across. It's right across this mirror right here. It's going to be right across here, and the same with this. So our final answer would be this, right? And that's what you'd select on your test. But let me get an actual piece of paper and do this for you in real time. So we have our piece of paper here. I already have the hole punches in, but I'm gonna help you guys visualize this. So remember, our first fold would be this way, right? And then you're gonna fold it upwards to get that. See, there's that little piece right here that you can see on the image, and we have our little rectangle. And then we have to go down to have that triangle in the front. Then we hole punch here. So remember, we have our mirror here. We're going to reflect that across, and then we have our mirror here. When we fold it down, so now we have that little U shape. And then we have this flap here, right? We need to fold this out. Completely ignore these because we're only worried about this one section that's being folded out. So we're gonna reflect that across our mirror here, and we have our final answer. Okay, so I have a little bit more of an in-depth breakdown here. So again, we have our little circle here. We think of our little triangle. We don't think of any other hole punch if there were any. If they're not in this triangle being folded out this way, we don't worry about it. So we fold this across this, and I put it here. Think of this little yellow line as a mirror. So it's getting reflected across that mirror here. So we have 2 dots reflected across this mirror here. Now we're gonna have 4. And then we do this last one, remember, only think about this part that is being folded over. Now we're gonna have 6 dots. All right, here's a better, if you can't really visualize what I'm saying, just from here to here, right? From here to here, reflect it across exactly where it is on the other side when you're doing a half, right? And then you're just gonna reflect it across this mirror right here. Okay, so let me show you how I would do this on the real DAT. Whenever I took it, you have to be really quick. So again, looking at this, it's gonna be right here. So we're gonna put it here. And then I see it's getting reflected across here, so here. It's getting reflected across here, so it's gonna be halfway. I made this too big, right? And then you're gonna have this last one here. So just think about these, and that's gonna reflect across here. So that's still pretty slow, so let's speed that up a little bit. So you have it here, it reflects across here, reflects across there. See that? Reflects across here, right here. Think about this, boom, boom. That is all you're gonna need to do for this really simple practice problem for hole punching. But in further videos, we're gonna go into more in-depth problems, and hopefully that'll help you understand the hole punching section a lot better. Again, it's all about practice. I'm gonna show you as many different scenarios as possible, from easy to hard, and even confusing folds. So hopefully by the end of my videos, you'll understand this section a little bit better.